It was New York City, 1899, and newspaper was king. And the two kings of the newspaper world were William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer, were two of the richest and most powerful men in America at the near turn of the century. Each owned a giant newspaper in New York City, and both competed to grab readers with sensational headlines and extra editions. Read all about it. They depended on a large network of city children and teenagers to get the papers to the readers. When the two millionaires tried to gouge the newsies for a pennies more, it was nearly their downfall. I'm Jake Storielli. This is the story of the newsies in New York City, and more so, this is Laughs from the Past.
All right, what's up? How you doing, Jake? It's a new season. Do you feel anew?
I feel anew.
New season of Laughs from the Past, season 4, all about children making history.
Children making history.
It's going to be a swift reminder that when you were a kid, you didn't do shit.
Ooh,
did you
that's
make
what this is?
That's what this is. It's the whole season.
That's what the plan was? Damn.
Did you make any history as a child, Jake?
History I made as a child. I mean, after I was class president of the high school, they made a rule that you had to be a lot better academically than I was. So that's kind of history.
Is that real?
Yeah. It's also our buddy Kyle Flisher. His little brother was class president a few years after me, and it was similar circumstances. So then they made the rules like you had to have like a 3.8 GPA, and you had to be in like 5 groups or something. So it's like, wow. Shots fired.
Can't just vote in the fun kid anymore.
The town idiot. So I guess that's history. I mean, 2-sport middle school captain. You still hear a lot of people talk about that. But yeah, otherwise not too much history made. What was some history you made as a youth?
0.
What?
I was the first American that wore board shorts during diving class in Australia.
See? There's a group of Aussies saying, remember that freaking weirdo that wore board shorts to dive class?
Because they all wore Speedos, and I was just too... My mom was like, aren't you more embarrassed that you're the only one wearing board shorts? I was like, no. So I was a pretty good diver, Jake. Like, I had a back dive.
I'm not naked in the pool right now, so I'm not more embarrassed.
For like 10-year-old dive class, I graduated to like, they were like, you can go to the next level. I had a back dive on point. I had a backflip dive. Pretty cool. And they're like, you can go to the next level, but you have to wear Speedos. And I just quit. My mom was like, Jim, you're like excelling at this. You're doing well.
Yeah.
I said, no, I'm gone. No, thank you.
Play by my rules, Mom.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll find something else to be good at. I'll just play wall ball during recess.
Hey, board shorts, you want to play wall ball?
All right. Have you ever seen the movie Newsies?
No. I know it's an O'Brien like family one. It's a movie on the wall in the O'Brien house.
It had to be our most worn down VHS.
Right.
It's Christian Bale, Newsies. It's this story. It's exactly this story that we're telling. Like right. Spot on, but it's a musical. Christian Bale signed up, and then afterwards they told him, "Oh, it's going to be a musical now," and he was like, "What?"
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just not singing.
Yeah, no, he's got some good songs in it.
Yeah.
Now it's a Broadway play. The Newsies. Everyone knows like what a newsboy is, but they don't really know that like it was a real thing, and they weren't 15 years old. They weren't high schoolers. They were children. In the movie, the Newsies, they're all like, 16, 17, 18.
Right.
That's
actors.
That's old. These were children.
What was your first job?
Ooh, my first job was an umpire in 8th grade.
Okay.
I was 14 years old. I umpired. Yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely my first job. Like, besides watering my neighbor's plants while they were out of town.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to decide between. We had a set of old like grandparent neighbors, and they used to have they'd had like 2 grandsons come over, and they were just 2 like 5-year-old boys that were just like almost too much energy for them. So when they were watching the grandkids, they'd have me come over and just basically play free safety. So I mean, I wasn't really babysitting; I was just kind of there. So I don't know if you count that. I kind of forgot about my umpiring. That almost like wasn't a job. That was like, here's $30 and a hot dog.
Yeah, my first job that I got like a paycheck for with taxes coming out of it was bagger at a grocery store.
Yeah, mine was maintenance at a golf course.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Newsies.
Do you want me to break out into the newsy songs? Whenever, like,
If you feel it, man, I'll never stop you.
If
you know
tell
that.
me Pulitzer and Hears, I just think of Pulitzer and Hears. They think they got us. Do they got us? No.
All right.
Yeah. I know like the whole movie Newsies by heart. Anyway, here we go. Newsies hollered the day's headlines from busy street corners and subway entrances, from positions outside the revolving doors of office buildings, and from sidewalks near the lunch counters where secretaries and business people grabbed quick meals. Some newsies stayed on the streets all day long, avoiding school, while others raced to their positions as soon as school was finished. They made their profits by buying papers from the newspaper company and then selling them to readers for a little more, pocketing the difference. They kept about a nickel for every 10 papers they sold. If they didn't sell a paper, they had to take the loss. It was a tough deal, but a straight deal. At least a newsie knew what to expect. So we can talk about how they got replaced by just like a stand.
Yeah, that's tough, huh?
You got replaced by an inanimate object. A lot of people get replaced by machines these days and computers,
Right.
you know? Like first machines replaced people, then computers and technology replaced people. The newsies got replaced by basically a box on the side
Pieces
of the
of
road.
wood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough break.
It's a tough break. Can you imagine though? This is good business for these kids. Like they're learning, you know, you got to buy it wholesale. You got to, if I sell them for this much more, blah, blah, you get the difference. Like business 101 at 10 years old.
Yeah. It's like a hot dog vendor at a stadium, a beer vendor.
Now, would you lie about the headlines in the movie Newsies? They embellished the headlines to try and sell the papers. Their whole slogan is headlines don't sell papes, newsies sell papes.
Right.
So there's one story where it's like baby born with 3 heads, and then it's like a lie.
Right. I feel like I would put my heart and soul into like pushing the envelope as far as I could.
Mm-hmm.
Without lying, and I wouldn't want it to come off deceitful. I'd want someone to buy it, look at it, and be like, "Newsy kid kind of got me today."
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. I appreciate the hustle. That's where I would want to land.
We hate clickbait so much.
Right.
The streets of New York City were just a bunch of 10-year-olds screaming clickbait at your face.
Is it the original clickbait?
Guess so, yeah.
Maybe like I'm trying to think if Renaissance fairs tried to like bait people in or anything like that, but I don't think so.
I mean, there had to be like false advertisements for a while. Like probably
Right.
Gladiators, they were like, this guy's a giant, he's got 4 heads, and then it's like a guy that has 1 head. And he's not a
Right,
giant.
he's the strongest man you've ever seen. He's the size of a mountain.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, okay. So not the original clickbait, but like maybe the original like mass clickbait.
For articles and news.
Yeah.
The trouble started when Hearst and Pulitzer decided to make up for slow sales by raising the price that newsies had to pay for their papers. In the movie, they say, charging the newsies more for their papes, disgraceful, Denty. So, I mean, it seems like fair business. Well, let's just... Actually, it doesn't. It's kind of fucked. Charge the 10-year-olds more?
Know what I think you would have been really good at in the right town?
What's that?
Being the paper boy.
You think?
Oh, yeah. I'm picturing you cruising on a bike, tossing papers at like 4 a.m.
Oh yeah, I always thought that job was cool.
Yeah, I think like you would have been like we're talking about kids leaving impressions and how people still, talk about that time I ran the mile during gym class. I peed in the woods and the whole 7th grade staff saw me, and like that's a kid making history. In your town, like if you were in the right town in the right time period, you would be like a legendary paperboy. I truly believe that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've always was drawn to that job. There's a movie called The Paper Brigade that came out in like 92, and it was about a paper boy who like had all these problems on his route, like a grumpy man, a dog, and he like solves them, and like he like figured. I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world.
Yes.
And then there's another movie called The Spectacular Now, where Miles Teller's in it, and he's sitting in the back of a truck helping out with the paper route, just sitting in the back of a truck reclined and just tossing papers onto every driveway. And I'm like, that's the most fun you can have.
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream. I picture you. I mean, you would get to the level where, a lot of the newsies that, they'd get, or not newsies, these are the newspaper bike people, but you'd start the day, like everyone gets their newspaper. It's like super early. People are like pissy. Like you'd come in, and then everyone would circle back at the end of the day, and you'd be like, oh, today was a great day. At 200 out of 233 right on the porch. And people would be like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so most of the people would be like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, why are you even keeping track of that? Like, who cares? And you're like, oh, great day.
If I delivered newspapers, I'd 100% have an average of driveways hit, porches hit, You're making me upset that I never
analytics.
did this. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's still time if you really want.
No, I saw an adult delivery person once.
Ooh, yeah, that's got to be a tough.
And it was like heartbreaking. I was like, oh, that's not fun. Their car was filled with newspapers. They're just smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, and just like slowly driving through neighborhoods, dropping them on the edge of the driveway. I was like, holy shit, dream ruined.
Yeah.
This is brutal.
The technology didn't help there.
All right. So Hearst and Pulitzer figured that the boys couldn't do anything about it. Just charge those 10-year-olds more. But they were very wrong, Jake. In July of 1899, 300 newsies gathered in City Hall Park and formed their own union. We're talking about 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
They elected officers and made up committees. They announced that they would refuse to deliver Hearst's New York Journal or Pulitzer's New York World until their buying price went back to normal. We're here for our rights and we will die defending them, explained 10-year-old Boots McClellan. McAleenan? Boots. Great name. There's a character named Boots in Newsies, the movie. How nuts is that? Like, how fucking nuts is that?
Interesting. I don't know. I don't know if it's the devil's advocate in me or I don't know what it is. I guess I'm just trying to put myself in the time period and picture a group of kids and like I don't know. Like I almost picture kids being more willing to do this cuz like think about like when unions were forming in the steel mills and all that. Like, hey, they got there, but like, I don't know if you were the guy that tried to start it, and like the higher ups found out, like they fired you, and now you didn't have a job and you couldn't feed your family. Mm-hmm. Like kids, it kind of hits the point where like I don't know, you're a group of kids, like most of you are friends and stuff or whatever, and then. I don't know, you're like, hey, they're charging us more. Like, hey, I heard my dad's in a union. Should we start a union? Like, I picture kids being like, yeah, let's start a damn union.
Only 10 now.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive, but I'm not, like, blown away like, wow, these kids were over the top. Like, I'm picturing 10-year-old myself being a newsie, and if someone's like, they're charging us more, so we're going to start a union tonight. And I'd be like, yeah, I'll do whatever you guys say to me.
Yes, but there still has to be the handful.
The ringleaders.
The ringleaders are impressive.
Yeah.
Everyone else following suit,
Yeah.
sure, of course. The strike lasted 2 weeks. The newsies demonstrated at the places where delivery carts usually gave them their bundles of papers. They put signs up on nearby lampposts that read, "Help the Newsboys," and "Our cause is just." Their tactics were not gentle. Sometimes hundreds of boys surrounded the carts and threatened the drivers, who quickly tossed the papers over the side and fled.
Nice.
Mobs of boys threw rocks at the men Hearst and Pulitzer hired to replace them, the scabs. Soon, nobody would even pick up the papers for fear of being confronted by angry boys. Now, this scene is hilarious.
Okay.
Just scared to read the New York Journal because if you do, you'll have 5 10-year-olds terrorizing you. A delivery driver, like, I mean, 5 kids are scary, so I'm not knocking this delivery
Kids
driver.
are scary.
But you drive up to deliver your, thousands of papers, and the kids just tear apart your truck and rip all the things, and you got to run home in a panic, and you get home to your wife. How was work today? It's like, I got terrorized by 100 10-year-olds. It was horrible, and I have a lot of sympathy because that's miserable. It's really funny, though.
Yeah, like imagine if you walked into an alley and you saw like a group of like 4 sketchy people, and it's just like you and the 4, and they're like adults. Like you'd be like, oh shit, like I have to be careful, otherwise this could be real bad. All right, let's say two children, 2 10-year-olds make up a grown adult. I mean, we're talking now like an alley with 50 real people or 100 kids. That's horrifying.
And you can't really fight back.
If they wanted to, they could eat you alive.
Yeah, you can't fight back.
No.
It's terrible. It's terrifying. So yeah, their strike was working. Police were caught in the middle because the public supported the newsies, but the companies and replacement workers demanded protection. And boys could almost always outrun the police. That's pretty funny. Like, yeah, I'm not outrunning a 10-year-old.
That's pretty hilarious. Like how far have we come? Like nowadays the police officers take so much pride in like, yeah, like you can't outrun a police officer. Like we've seen so much crap. Like if we get our hands on you, we're gonna beat the hell out of you. Like back then they were like, those are fucking kids. I'm not chasing them down. Are you kidding me?
Fastest kid alive.
Yeah. Like, exactly. Like, that's the funny scene from Superbad. Back then, it was like, oh, no, he was 10, man. No way I was catching him.
Like, they're skirting through alleys, going over fences and stuff. You're just like, fuck that.
No, thank you.
The Newsboys strike spread throughout New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. That's what, like, how are these 10-year-olds able to spread word of mouth so quickly?
I mean, I don't know, but I think if we were there, we would know.
Yeah, well, I do know that.
Know what I'm picturing? Know how, like...
I think I have an answer coming up.
It's usually cousins, or you have a friend that moved away or something, but there's always a couple kids at the high school that know a couple kids at the other high school. And, like...
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to picture... I don't know. Like, I clearly, and I'll leave names out of it, but I remember like a cute girl in high school who her cousin went to like one of the high schools 30 minutes away, and it was like, yo, can we hang out with them at some point? So like I'm picturing something like that being the gossip train.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
in the movie, they know the 5 boroughs that need to have the biggest like group. It was like the Bronx, the 5 Points, the Battery, and all that stuff. And they went and got the leader from everywhere. Pulitzer, as newspaper sales dropped, Pulitzer and Hearst began to lose big money. Advertisers demanded lower rates because of the strike. Like, no one's buying your paper, so not going to pay full price.
Yeah, no.
But the other newspapers in New York cheerfully made heroes of the newsies. Pulitzer's assistant sent him a worried message. The people seem to be against us. They are encouraging the boys and tipping them and refraining from buying the papers for fear of having them snatched from their hands. I'd love to go see New York City at this 2-week period in 1899 when you have just little boys just running around snatching newspapers out of hands. And
scary.
It's scary. It's uncivilized. But that's probably how they spread a little bit, because the other newspapers were like, oh, yeah, take down Pulitzer and Hearst. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
One summer night, the Newsies organized a mass rally in Lower Manhattan, and 5,000 boys showed up.
Jesus.
A grand cheer arose when a leader named Kid Blink vaulted up onto the speaker's platform. I was saving that name from you because it's such a cool name.
Kid Blank, dude. That's an
Blink.
incredible nickname.
Blink.
Blink?
Blink.
Oh, damn. I loved Kid Blank.
He wore an eye patch.
Okay, so I mean, I obviously still like that, but dude, Kid Blank is like a powerful, I want to be identified, but I want to be identified for the people.
I like Kid
Like,
Blink because it's like the eye in the eye, and he wore an eye patch.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Kid Blank sounds like the most powerful person I've ever heard of.
It sounds like anonymous. Like it sounds like
it's like I am an anonymous leader that cannot be stopped.
So Kid Blink got onto the platform. He raised his hands for silence and scratched his head as if something were puzzling him. I'm trying to figure it out. How 10 cents on 100 papers can mean more to a millionaire than it does to the newsboys. I just can't see it. The Newsies vowed to continue the strike until they brought Pulitzer and Hearst to their knees.
Whoa.
5,000 kids, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's like a horrific number.
They rented out a hall. Or like a hall.
I'm picturing 5 kids in my apartment right now, and it's scary.
How do you get 5,000 kids to sit down?
You don't.
Yeah, it's a nightmare of a assembly.
You don't. You just straight don't.
Well, when sales dropped by 2/3, Hearst and Pulitzer gave up. They offered a deal that kept the prices the same, but let the Newsies return unsold papers and get their money back. In the end, it meant more money than before. The Newsies took it, disbanded their union, and went back to selling papers. So that's so in the end, I don't know if I kind of read that quickly, but they're like, all right, we're not lowering the prices, but if you buy 100 papers and you only sell 80, then we'll buy the rest back from you at the same price that you bought them from us.
Right. Kind of a fair is fair type deal.
Mm-hmm. But they won, man. They like a bunch of kids brought the 2 most powerful men in New York City to their terms.
Yeah, they what? How do we label this? Is it abuse of power, or just underestimating kids, or a little of both?
It's both. It's underestimating. It's abuse
Right.
of power. Yeah, it's not a good look.
Were girls newsies?
Yeah, there were some. There's a picture of some in the book here, but there's not there wasn't a lot. I'm trying to find if you Google image Kid Blink, like he's a character in Newsies the movie, but not like Jake. If I send you this picture right here,
Okay.
you're going to be scared. Like if you had these 10-year-old Peaky Blinder looking newsies smoking cigars and stealing papers out of your hands, you're terrified.
Yo, I know this is like such a phrase you shouldn't say, but these kids smoking cigarettes and cigars is one of the most badass pictures I've ever seen.
Knowing what they did, too, the whole backstory.
Like, fuck that.
I thought you were going to say, fuck those kids.
No. Like, dude, like this, like, Kid Blink is the toughest character I've ever met.
I know, man.
Dude.
And
Jim, I mean, this is kind of the origins of Laughs from the Past. But Kid Blink should be shared with the youth across America. You could Photoshop some of the cigarettes out. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, did you
But
click around the other pictures of them just like smugging the cameras?
Yeah, man. This whole thing is incredible. Like, the real pictures are... Kids should know about Kid Blink.
I'm telling you, man, I got a whole book here. This whole season 4, is going to be all about kids who made history. Like, let me read some titles to you and see what you're interested in.
Sure.
We got John Thayer was the last person to be on the Titanic. He was the last person to be touching the Titanic before it went into water. He survived.
Okay.
We got spies in the Revolutionary War. We got... They actually don't have... there's Sacagaway in here, but we kind of did that already. They don't have good, like, titles. Like, you wouldn't be able to know what it's about just from the title, so this was a bad thing to start doing. But whatever. Whatever. Remember that little kid in season 2 that was all about the Civil War? There was, like, Johnny Shiloh, the little kid who joined the war at 10.
Right.
Like, he could be this. But, yeah, if anyone knows of any stories, let us know. But go watch Newsies. It's a great movie. Now that you know the story, my sister watched it with us as adults, and I was telling her, like, she's like, oh, I guess I just watched this as, like, good guys, bad guys, surface level. She didn't know that was happening. Like, they were...
Right. What, I've got an interesting one for you, because this kind of is the kickoff chapter, and I think the Newsies is fun and a right way to start. What children in history do we know that have, like, done big things? Like, nowadays, is it just, like, child stars and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, prodigies?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what's a good prodigy?
I think, like, Mozart was a prodigy. I think he was, but I don't know if he was famous as a child.
Tiger Woods.
Yeah, he was a teenager. There's a lot of sports figures.
Well, Tiger was on TV at, like, age 2.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, my knowledge is kind of only sports, so I go
But,
there.
I mean, there's probably a ton of 2-year-olds that have a good golf swing that are on TV at 2 but don't pan out.
Right.
The fact that he panned out is great. Yeah, I'm blanking. There's got, like, Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid. Monet Davis. I only have sports.
You only know sports.
Strictly sports.
Yeah, I was trying to find a list, but
Mark Zuckerberg.
Kind of, but he was
like,
a young adult.
Yeah, like OG Zuck.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole book of them here, and we're gonna do probably 10 episodes worth. But go look at the pictures of Kid Blank and Co. Do you think there was a way for them to just, like, how big do you think this story could have gotten? Like, the Hearst and Pulitzer caved after 2 weeks.
That's interesting. So this is almost painting Hearst and Pulitzer in a good light for them stopping it at 2 weeks, because if the kids can get 5,000 assembled in 2 weeks, what could they do if the city started brewing and this went into, like, 6 months? The streets would have, like, lost control. The kids would have ruled the streets.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So shout out to Hearst and Pulitzer for basically admitting they made an error.
I want to know if there's an adults backing this. In the movie The Newsies, there's a writer for the newspaper The Sun. They covered the strike.
Right.
But he wasn't really in... Well, this is a fictional Disney movie. So,
right.
But he was just, like, watching them and not really giving them advice. Like, he bailed them out of jail once.
Right.
So that there had to be figures like that, but I wonder if there was just one, like, a dad, Kid Blink's dad,
right,
who was, like, in the wings of the assembly, you know? Do this. I like to
Kid
think...
Blink's
no.
dad did not have power over him. I've seen Kid Blink. Kid Blink is his own dad. No, I think that turns into an interesting, like, almost cultural conversation where... like, the parents weren't as not invested, but it was like, be home for supper and you'll get fed, and, like, don't die.
Yeah.
Like it was the old rules of parenting. Like I'm sure most of the parents didn't give a damn. Like in a nice way.
Wow, listen to this. In July of 1899, rumors spread among the Newsboys that strike leaders Kid Blank and David Simmons had betrayed the strike and agreed to sell the boycotted papers in exchange for a bribe from the newspaper executives. Both boys denied the charges, but some sources note that Kid Blank wore clothes a bit nicer than usual. In response to these suspicions, Kid Blank and David Simmons resigned from their leadership positions. Simmons changing from union president to treasurer, and Kid Blank becoming a walking delegate.
Man, it almost turns into, and you know, I'm not a huge politics guy, but like I think you and I both agree, like we've hit the point in modern politics where it's like this system doesn't work for nowadays. Like if you need to change something, like it's impossible. Like there's all these gridlock jokes, blah blah blah. But like this shows the advantages of having loose rules and being kids. Like Kid Blink got called corrupt, and so did the other kid, and they were like, hey, look, here's the deal. We're not corrupt, but if this is going to cause a problem, like we can take lesser positions.
Yeah.
And like that's not how the real world works.
So I do have to correct this right now. Kid Blink was 18 during the strike.
Yeah, I mean, Kid Blink was a dad.
So listen to Kid Blink's other nicknames, Jake. His real name was Louis Belletti.
Louis Belletti.
He was 18, had red hair, and had an eye patch over one eye. He also went by the nicknames Red Blink. That's nowhere near as cool as Kid Blink.
Yeah, it's Kid Blink.
Muggsy McGee. Why the fuck was his nickname Muggsy McGee?
That's pretty... Oh, I think he was mugging people a lot.
And listen to this last one. Blind Diamond. A guy with an eye patch named Blind Diamond?
Yeah, maybe don't teach the kids about Kid Blink because they'll be too strong.
Yeah. Simmons was found boring. Then there was Racetrack Higgins. That's a character from the movie as well. He was the leader of the Brooklyn Union and was elected vice president of the General Union after Kid Blink and David Simmons stepped back. He was a fixture at Sheepshead Bay Racetrack and referenced horses in many quotes all at the time of the strike. Just talked about horses. Pretty funny.
I've got this. This is getting off the beaten path a little bit. Do you think you would have been more into horses back in the day?
There's only 3 sports at this time: boxing, horse racing, baseball.
Right. So that's a yes.
So yeah.
Okay.
I like sports. This guy's name, Henry Butler. He went by Major Butts.
Obvious. That's a note, and that's obvious.
Major Butts and Kid Blink. Like, that's who's terrorizing the world. Jesus. The Newsboys strike of 1899 has been credited with inspiring later strikes, including one in Butte, Montana, and Louisville, Kentucky. Jeez, man. This is the Wikipedia now, which has much more info. The rally at Irving Hall. It was sponsored by Senator Timothy D. Sullivan. So that's some help they got there. 5,000 boys from Manhattan. Crazy. Other speeches were made by Warhorse Brennan, Bob the Indian, Crazy, Racetrack, Boots.
The
Squad. Oh, man. Okay, that's a cool story. All right. I think that ends this one. Cool story. I love that story because I like the movie because I grew up watching it. So, boom.
If you know any children from history stories that are, I'd say they have to be a tier above, like the class president rules being changed because I was an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know anything like that, let us know.
And nothing sad. I don't want to talk about children dying.
Yeah, none of the sad stuff, ideally.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for listening to Laughs from the Past. If this is your first time listening, this is Season 4, Episode 1. I think Season 1 was 22 episodes. Season 2 was all about the Civil War, 10 episodes. And Season 3 was historical mysteries and 15 episodes. So there is a lot of back catalog of Laughs from the Past. Go check us out. leave a review, a rating, subscribe, and we appreciate it. And go Kid Blink. Are we Kid Blink fans or are we scared of them?
Such Kid Blink. Like, I don't... These are words that are always scary for me to say because I know it's going to end up being an hour and a half of your life. But, like, Kid Blink shirt, I could be talked into that.
All right. See you guys.